Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. Smackdown has made its move to Tuesday nights. It went live. We have a draft. We got some matches. So we're going to talk about the matches first. So if you are here just to check out who went to what show, click to the time below and it'll take you right to us talking about just the draft picks. But if you want to hear about the matches...
Yeah, because we're going to cover the entire draft, what was on Smackdown and what was on the network.
Yep. So here we go with the matches. We open up with John Cena taking on Luke Gallows. This is the only singles match that hasn't happened since his feud started with the crew, or the club. I don't know what team he's going against. He did have Enzo and Cass in his corner to back him up, which was cool. I'm pretty much everyone was there because it was the draft.
Yeah.
And a decent match. Okay, I just realized this is the only time they did it. During the commercial, they put the match in a small screen where you could keep watching the match. But this is the only match they did it with.
Yeah.
Do this with every single match. Do it on Raw. We might give a shit. But Carl Anderson and AJ Styles would attempt to try and screw over Cena. They'd end up getting dumped over the top rope by Enzo and Cass, which allowed John Cena to hit the AA on Luke Gallows. John Cena picks up the win. So that gives them a little bit of momentum going into their 6-man tag match this Sunday at Battleground.
Hell yeah.
Then we had a tag team match, which was champions versus challengers. We had the United States champion Rusev teaming with the Intercontinental champion The Miz, taking on their respective opponents at this Sunday's Battleground, that being Zack Ryder and Darren Young. Darren Young and Zack Ryder made a pretty cool team. And they had Bob Backlund in their corner, but
Miz. If we're talking about who's in whose corner,
Rusev and Miz had Maurice and Lana. So
I wish they would just be a thing.
Yeah,
Maurice and Lana.
Yeah, they could.
Could that be a storyline? They dump Rusev and Miz.
They get together.
Yeah.
Rusev actually unintentionally helped Zack Ryder at the end of this because he went for a Rough Rider on Rusev, but Rusev launched him over his head, so instead he hit the Rough Rider on The Miz, who didn't fucking see it coming. And so then with Miz out, Ryder then low bridges and drop kicks Rusev to the outside, leaving Miz to get locked in the crossface chicken wing by Darren Young, and Darren Young makes his Battleground opponent tap out.
The Bobster Lock.
God. No.
It's funny because it's the Oscar Lock, but it's also Bob Backlund.
No, he brought up a good point while we were watching. He's like, well, what if Oscar's down in NXT? Like, well, if I get drafted, what the fuck am I gonna do now?
Yeah.
She can't. If Darren Young's using it, she can't use it too. This is how it works. We had an interesting one-on-one match. Bray Wyatt taking on Xavier Woods.
Yeah, this is something that I think could have been a thing at Battleground had they just had maybe Strowman and Rowan face Big E and Kofi for the tag belts.
Yeah.
Because this was just a really interesting dynamic, because this is kind of the big key selling point to me about the Wyatt family New Day feud.
Yeah, no,
it's Xavier Woods' whole, paranoia of Bray Wyatt. Knowing that Bray Wyatt is like the anti-positivity demon.
Yeah, he's had this strange draw to Bray Wyatt the whole time, and they actually played on it twice during this match as well. Because the match starts. There really wasn't any action on the outside as far as I remember. Both teams kind of stayed to their sides, but there was one point Bray Wyatt was down and got down on his knees and then had his arms out, and like Xavier Woods was like ready to fight him. And as Bray continued to talk, you could see Woods like he dropped his hands and then actually started to like walk towards Bray, and then it got to a point where I don't know, Bray made like a sudden movement and it freaked Woods out, so Woods went for a punch, but Bray knocked him down. And so, good match. I'd love to see these two actually have a singles match again, maybe on a pay-per-view somewhere down the line. I think it'd be really cool to watch them just be able to cut loose and just go for it. So Woods eventually gets Bray Wyatt down, I don't remember exactly what he hit him with to knock him down, but he was setting up for the Shining Wizard. And so he starts to run, and as he does, Bray Wyatt pops up into the spider position, which like makes Xavier Woods like stutter step. And then he stops for a second, and then he starts running at him again, only to get caught in Sister Abigail, and Bray Wyatt picks up the win. And so I'm really wondering what's going to happen this Sunday when we have this 6-man tag team match. Because the titles aren't on the line.
No.
But, is this going to be something where we see Xavier Woods move to the... And, now even taking into consideration where they went on the draft...
It's going to be interesting.
It'll be... I'm not sure what's going to happen. But a very cool match. I'd like to see more. We had what was supposed to be Kane versus Kevin Owens turned into a brawl between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and then a double chokeslam from Kane.
Yeah.
Then we had a 2-on-1 handicap match where Charlotte and Dana took on Sasha Banks, and Sasha was doing a really good job of taking them both on. We had that moment on the outside.
Yeah, that was the highlight moment of the match for sure.
Yeah.
Because Sasha does double knees off the apron to Charlotte
Perfectly. Just
and then
drops her.
I'm kind of upset that JBL wasn't on commentary to witness Dana Brooke's clothesline out in front of the commentator's table.
Clothesline Sasha right in the face.
Yeah, and she knocked her ass down on the outside.
Yeah, no, it was a good dominant moment for Dana.
2-on-1, unfortunately, ends up being a downfall for Sasha Banks though, because
despite being able to fight them both off.
Yeah, it's one of the things that even like a 2-on-1 odds match, sometimes the babyface can pull it off, but I just think more so than anything is Sasha was way outsized.
Oh, absolutely. Just by Dana, she's outsized, but then you got Charlotte who's super tall.
Yeah, so it ends up being a blind tag.
Yeah, Dana goes face first into the turnbuckle.
And then Charlotte blind tags her. Sasha doesn't see it and locks the fake statement in on Dana Brooke.
Yeah.
Charlotte is able to come in, break it up by kicking her, and then spinning right around and giving her the natural selection.
Yeah. So we still don't know who Sasha's tag team partner will be at Battleground. Please keep that a secret till Sunday. Don't spoil that on main event tomorrow, please. Please. Please.
Or tonight.
That
This isn't main event on Tuesdays.
Yeah, but it doesn't really air until Wednesdays. Technically for you it's Wednesday because this is uploaded. But anyway, we had Chris Jericho taking on Cesaro. This is stemming from the tag team match that we had Monday night.
And we've seen these guys go against each other a couple times.
So good. So good. Let's run a feud between these two. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun to watch. And plus, with how good Jericho is at just being an annoying heel and how funny Cesaro-isms are, it would be really funny to see them kind of banter back and forth.
Yeah. The finish on this one, though, was,
so good.
Good ending, because Jericho, having been wrestling for so long, his timing on a lot of things is just, unbeatable.
Yeah.
So he catches Cesaro with a code breaker coming off of his springboard European uppercut.
Yeah. And it was, when you watch it in regular time, especially from the angle that we caught it didn't look as impressive. But then they did a slow motion angle from behind Jericho, and he hits it flush.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Jericho picking up the win over Cesaro. Then we also were supposed to have Natalya versus Alicia Fox. We came back from commercial. We didn't even know this match was happening. We come back from commercial, and Natty's just being beat to shit by Becky Lynch.
Yeah, apparently Becky Lynch came out and interrupted Natalya's entrance.
Yeah.
And was beating the crap out of her.
Yeah.
And they fought. This is definitely something. Has this been a match announced for Battleground?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been announced for a while, and the reason Natalya keeps attacking Becky is she's trying to lower her self-esteem even more, so she's got that momentum going into the match. But Becky really counteracted that and got some momentum herself.
Yeah, I saw Becky posted a picture on Instagram earlier today that said she was prepared for #battle.
Yeah.
So it's going to be I think a very physical match. I mean, they have like, if they would have been doing Sasha Charlotte, I would expect that to be the really physical women's match on the card.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's going to be a tag team match, I think it's going to be a little flashier, a little more by the book as far as what normal women's matches are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the physicality level is going to be way up there between Becky and Natty.
Makes sense for the storyline. And then in our main event, we had a rematch from last night's Monday Night Raw because of the controversial ending, which was officially announced after Raw. I don't know why they didn't say anything like, "Hey, check the network, we're going to figure out what's going on." They didn't say that, so we didn't check it. But Dean Ambrose was announced as retaining the championship.
So it was a draw.
Yeah, so it was a draw. Dean Ambrose retains. So we had a rematch because Seth still wants that definitive win. He wants to prove that he's the best. He wants to be champion going into Battleground. And they fucking kill it again.
Yeah.
It's just it's never a bad match between Ambrose and Rollins. And this end was perfect because they capitalized on what happened last night on Raw by Seth hitting the superplex, and then what you assumed he was going for,
he did.
He actually did. He tried to go for the Falcon Arrow, but as he brought Dean Ambrose up, Dean was able to slide off of his shoulders, spin him around, hit the fastest Dirty Deeds I've ever seen, and Dean Ambrose cleanly and definitively retains the WWE Championship.
Which I hope he does on Battleground.
Please. So Dean Ambrose remains champion heading into Battleground. So Battleground being the last combination roster pay-per-view.
Perhaps.
Other than
they haven't officially announced that the pay-per-views were going to be separate branded. It hasn't been a thing announced yet, but that's the big assumption because they've added a couple pay-per-views this year.
Yeah.
They've renamed some. So, I think they're trying to go back to that older feel, the mid-2000s when the brands were split initially.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to talk about individual rosters here. I'm going to pass this over to you so you can let us know who got drafted to Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, Raw definitely had an advantage because of their 3-2 draft picks during the initial few rounds.
Yeah, which only lasted until just after the show went off the air, and then what happened on the network was much more even.
Yeah. So initially, the very first 3 people that get drafted to Monday Night Raw, sort of a big deal picks. Stephanie picks Seth Rollins,
assuming that he would be WWE champion by the end of the night.
Yeah. And then they drafted the women's champion, Charlotte, so they're trying to, I think, monopolize the championships over on Monday Night Raw right away. And then from NXT, the first NXT call-up, Finn Balor.
Which, a lot of people have been assuming he's coming up. He just had his match with Nakamura. So it's kind of the perfect timing to bring up Finn Balor.
Yeah. Then we get Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and the New Day. So again, they're picking up the tag team champions.
Yep. Yeah, they're snatching up champions.
Brock is an interesting pick. I think, in my opinion, is a weird thing is that they had Brock Lesnar eligible to be drafted.
Yeah, especially when you take into consideration they don't have the Undertaker on there. They took off anyone who was injured. There was people on there that we didn't even expect them to be on. And so, for Brock Lesnar to be part of the draft,
And I think even if, knowing ahead of time Brock Lesnar's going to be on the draft, you'd have to only assume he was going to be on Raw, because I think he's made one Smackdown appearance since he returned.
Yeah. What's wrong with Tuesdays, Brock? Expand your horizons.
The next set of draft picks they got were Sami Zayn, Sasha Banks, and Chris Jericho. So they're going more trying to keep the newer, fresher face of the Divas division and picking up some
women's division
Canadians.
Yep.
They love them Canadians. But more title grabbing because they pick up the United States champion Rusev.
Along with Lana.
And Kevin Owens and another tag team, Enzo and Cass.
Yeah. So, they're starting to build their tag team division. They're really setting their sights on the champions themselves.
And then they pick the club.
Sans AJ.
Yes, because AJ's in the draft as a singles person.
Yeah.
The Big Show, so also monopolizing on the bald talent, because they have Cesaro, they have the club, they have...
Bald and beardy. All right.
And Nia Jax from NXT.
Yeah, so the second draft for them from NXT, the biggest woman on the roster.
Yeah, and again, keeping with the theme of keeping the fresh face of the women's division.
Yeah.
And then the last televised draft picks they have are Neville, Cesaro, and Sheamus.
So monopolizing the single name people.
Yeah.
Most of them.
And Neville should be coming back from injury very shortly here.
Yes. Yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure he made his return to a house show. Over
with his beard.
Yeah.
And then off-air draft, we've got the Golden Truth, Unnecessary, Paige, Darren Young, along with Bob Backlund and Sin Cara, Jack Swagger, the Dudley Boys, Summer Rae, Mark Henry, Braun Strowman, Bo Dallas, The Shining Stars, Alicia Fox, Dana Brooke, and Curtis Axel.
So, some interesting choices there, and if it's not apparent already, we have a lot of people, a lot of interesting people going different directions.
Yeah, there's a couple people I haven't said that go along with some of the people I have said.
Yeah.
They did keep the two drafted members of the Social Outcasts together. Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel both on Raw.
Yeah, Heath Slater was taken off due to his unnecessary injury from over the weekend.
And then they drafted Dana Brooke to Raw to probably keep her with Charlotte.
Yep. So going over to SmackDown, the club getting drafted to Raw, whereas the number 1 and number 2 drafts to SmackDown were the WWE Champion Dean Ambrose and the leader of the club, AJ Styles.
Yeah, so the club gets split up, but two extremely exciting, innovative singles wrestlers to open up the SmackDown draft.
And then to capitalize on that, you have two of the guys who are still, in great shape, could still go. I mean, obviously, because one of them's about to return next month at SummerSlam. But you get John Cena and Randy Orton.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because John Cena, he's doing his thing with the club, and that's obviously going to kind of kibosh a little bit because the club's moving over to Raw.
Yeah.
So if they keep that feud going, it's strictly going to be Cena Styles. And then Randy Orton, who, I mean, his next appearance is going to be this Sunday at Battleground when he's on the highlight reel.
Yeah. And then...
Which will be the last time you'll ever see Randy Orton on the highlight reel because he's on SmackDown and Jericho's on Raw.
Yes. So then, once again, we'll continue this interesting people going different directions with Braun Strowman going to Raw. Bray Wyatt was drafted to SmackDown. Quickly followed by SmackDown trying to capitalize on some of the top-tier women talent by drafting Becky Lynch.
Yeah, it's cool. I like that they're fairly even with tag teams and ladies.
Yes.
But
I'm telling me that the title's going to bullshit.
I'm really hoping because I feel like the women's division is going to lack hard on SmackDown if the championship doesn't bounce around.
Yes. Then following that up, just as Raw announced that they were going to take Rusev and Lana, SmackDown picked up the Intercontinental Champion Miz and Maurice.
Daniel Bryan was very reluctant to announce that they were picking the Miz.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to lose out on all the other champions.
Exactly. And then they followed that up with the Lone Wolf, Baron Corbin.
Meh. Sorry, but Baron Corbin hasn't been doing anything for us on the main roster.
Well, maybe he'll do something because the next set of draftees makes it seem like there's something there for Baron Corbin. Because before we get to who can complement Baron Corbin, we find out that the next NXT draft is the tag team known as American Alpha.
Yeah, another picks up from NXT.
That is awesome. That was one of my most excited. One of the draft picks that got me most excited was seeing that American Alpha got their spot.
And I'm glad they're going to be on SmackDown because it throws back to that vibe of when SmackDown had the young, intense talent.
Yes.
You know, that Paul Heyman era when you had like Kurt Angle and Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas and Edge and Benoit and Guerrero and Rhino was over there and every one of their mothers super intense people.
Yeah.
And the really entertaining match people, versus the heavy storyline people.
Right. And then we know Baron Corbin's got something to do because SmackDown drafted Dolph Ziggler.
Yay!
Up next, SmackDown would add another very talented, very experienced lady to their roster as they would pick up Natalya.
Makes sense because they picked up Becky.
Makes sense. And then followed that up with the Mexican aristocrat Alberto Del Rio.
Interesting choice because he wasn't on the show. He's one of the few people that got drafted that wasn't at least showcased very much.
Yeah, no, actually, now that I think about it, most of the people that went to SmackDown weren't on SmackDown.
Yeah. But again, Del Rio's a good experienced talent.
Yeah.
And
I don't really care.
He likes to throw down with people.
Yeah.
Which does make me excited
He
for
has
some of
his
the
moments.
talents. It makes me excited with some of the other talents they have on SmackDown because he does like to throw down.
Yeah.
And he can, we watched him in Ring of Honor and on Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
And we know he can go.
Yeah. The question is, will WWE let him go? To that point, at least. Then, following up on their tag teams, SmackDown picked up the Usos. And then followed that up with another big man talent in Kane.
Yeah.
Not Demon Kane.
And then this is where they started evening the picks up and giving them 3 picks per round.
Because that was the last round of 2 picks for SmackDown, 3 picks for Raw. They started going 3 and 3. So the first combination of 3 that SmackDown got was former U.S. champion Kalisto, Naomi, who we haven't seen in a few months, and the jobbers of the tag team division, the Ascension. Which, can we do something with the Ascension?
And there's a good chance now that the tag team division is split in half. More room to grow.
And I kind of wish, because they announced that the Cruiserweight thing was exclusive to Raw, I wish Kalisto was on Raw.
Yeah.
I think that's my only... Granted, he is a former U.S. champion, so he can go for any belt he wants, but I think he would thrive really well.
Absolutely.
But, maybe because of the success he had as U.S. champion, maybe they've got big plans for him. The next...
He's going to feud with Dean Ambrose over the WWE Championship.
Okay. Then the next block of 3, we had Zack Ryder, who could potentially walk out of Battleground as the United States champion.
Yeah.
We had Apollo Crews. I think the draft is going to be a good thing for Apollo Crews.
Yeah, and again, as much as I wasn't excited about Baron Corbin being drafted to either show, really. But it's that young and competitive crowd again, because Dolph Ziggler is a very, very talented, very competitive wrestler. Baron Corbin is young and upcoming, so is Apollo Crews. You get that vibe of this is going to be, and even with the fact that Shane and Daniel Bryan are the guys in charge of the show, you immediately get the feel of this is the show where the hungry people are.
Yeah. And then rounding out that block of 3, probably the most exciting woman draft was taken from NXT, Alexa Bliss. So I am so excited to see Alexa Bliss on the main roster. Just getting a chance, it's interesting that she's getting brought up before Bayley. But I think it harkens back to what we always talk about, that Bayley is the flagship of the women's division on NXT. Yeah. She's what holds it together.
And I realized in my head that I was surprised at first, and then I was completely unsurprised with it when I was thinking this is probably one of the main reasons why they broke her away from Blake and Murphy.
I didn't even think about that. Then in our next block of 3, we got Breezango heading to SmackDown. Another good up-and-coming hungry tag team, as you were saying. Speaking of hungry, she's hungry for something. Eva Marie is going to SmackDown as well. And then also in the tag team division, we have the Vaudevillains.
Yeah, so we're beefing up the SmackDown tag team side of things. But noticing like they have Breezango and the Vaudevillains and the Ascension, it's a lot of heel tag teams. So we're gonna be seeing somebody make a flip flop.
They have the Usos. That's it.
So I feel like we're gonna be seeing somebody. My guess is either the Vaudevillains or Breezango make a flip flop over to
Breezango
babyface side.
probably just because they're already over. People fucking love them.
Why? What's not to love?
Then joining Bray Wyatt on SmackDown will be Wyatt family member Eric Rowan. And then, you want to say this one? Or you,
this is why
you gave me SmackDown. Mojo Rawley is coming to SmackDown. That's going to be your face tag team. It's going to be the Hype Bros.
Don't even.
And then rounding out the SmackDown drafts and rounding out the women's division on SmackDown.
Throw anything.
Once again, from NXT is Carmella.
Hey, the interesting thing about this is keeping her away from Enzo and Cass is weird.
Yeah, Enzo and Cass over on Raw, Carmella on SmackDown. I think this is good for her specifically because she's definitely upped her game over on NXT. She's worked herself up, and I think especially being brought up with someone like Alexa Bliss, and then having people like Becky Lynch and Natalya, who can probably work her more and more up in her capabilities, then maybe drafting either her to SmackDown or Enzo and Cass to, or her to Raw or Enzo and Cass to SmackDown next year, if that's what they do. Having that reunion, I think, is going to be good. Or if they plan on doing trades.
Yeah.
That's always a possibility when it comes to the draft.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me about that right now is we're seeing who, in my opinion now, considering all the drafts, and this, including the 6 people brought up from NXT, or the 6 drafts brought up from NXT, because technically there were 7 people brought up from NXT because American Alpha.
Yeah.
That, despite the fact that the numbers are fairly even as far as the women are concerned, you have who, in my opinion, are the 2 weakest female workers being drafted to SmackDown. Because I know
Eva and Carmella.
Carmella, is getting better, but she's not quite where I think they want her to be, or where I think she needs to be at this point.
And Eva Marie will never get there.
And Eva Marie is definitely nowhere near in that zone.
Yeah.
So it does kind of make me worried a little bit for the ladies of SmackDown.
Yeah, it's maybe they're there to. I mean, Eva Marie. I would hope that she's there just to be fodder, but I don't think they're gonna do that just because she's on TV. She's got the Total Divas stuff, so they're probably not gonna just regulate her to women's division Ascension style. I don't know.
Maybe she could manage the Ascension.
Honestly,
that'd be a weird pair, but it would work.
Here's the thing.
You see Eva Marie with a red triangle on her head?
I got something better that might actually make me like her, unless they go with the swerve that you suggested just a second ago. I wouldn't mind with the fact that she is a model. Have her manage Breezango.
Yeah, that could work.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind her in a manager's position. I don't want her as a wrestler because she's awful.
Yeah, especially for somebody who was touting of how much they were trying to get better and to not really show much.
Yeah,
at all.
Brian Kendrick. What happened, bro? Nothing, apparently.
Well, I mean, she had some Snapchats that were pretty good.
Yeah. It was just, you know what it was? Brian Kendrick was putting her over.
Yeah. Another thing that taking into consideration of ladies who got split up or put on different sides, we have Lana and Maurice on opposite sides as well. And I'm wondering if they're going to capitalize on the fact that Lana has been training and made her debut at WrestleMania, and Maurice is a former women's champion. So, they both also have, on different degrees, their in-ring capabilities.
Yeah.
I wonder if
they're both like a step above Eva and Carmella. They're not the greatest in-ring workers, but they're not the worst.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if maybe with the Divas, or the women's, I keep saying Divas division.
Stop it.
I know, it's coming back for some reason.
It's because of Eva Marie's up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diva Marie.
I think it's because like
Diva Marie. That's her nickname from now on.
Maybe since it's gonna be spread a little more thin on both sides, that if Lana starts doing more in-ring stuff, and if Maurice were to decide to get back into the ring, that would be one more on each side.
Yeah.
And a good heel on both sides, too.
And then taking into consideration the people that were split up, as far as team-wise, where do we go with the Club and AJ Styles?
I think the Club, a lot of people are going to immediately go assume that they're going to pair off with Finn Balor.
It makes sense. Or will they be a natural enemy to Finn?
It's possible.
What do you see AJ doing? Do you think he's going to jump in, and are we going to see Dean Ambrose retain on Sunday, and we have AJ go after Dean Ambrose?
I mean, I don't want to go too far into my picks because we have the prediction video coming up later this week. But I mean, I could definitely see a good feud between Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Also, I could see AJ Styles going through, and maybe feuding with Randy Orton too, because again, it's another guy who was in WWE for a long time.
I'm a big fan of Randy Orton, and I'd like to see what him and AJ can do.
Yeah. And I could just see how many times Randy Orton could RKO him while he's trying to do the springboard forearm.
Yeah. I want to see him do an RKO out of the Styles Clash.
Sure.
It's not going to happen.
I just saw it in my head, so it's going to happen.
The most interesting, and I'm not sure what they're going to do at this point in time, but the splitting of the Wyatt family. Braun Strowman by himself on Monday Night Raw. Granted, Luke Harper wasn't eligible for being drafted because he's still injured. But putting both Bray and Rowan on Smackdown, what happens with Braun Strowman?
Well, initially upon his arrival to the main roster, Vince was super high on Braun.
Oh, yeah.
And wanted to push him to be a big heel. Because he's that persona. He's big, he's scary, he's hard to beat.
His debut was awesome.
Unfortunately, as we've found out through the next following weeks after his debut, his in-ring skill, his match working wasn't that good.
Right.
But it has been getting better.
Definitely.
Since Bray's been back and the Wyatt family's been on TV again, we've seen a little more, an increase in how well Braun works. I'm either going to say that when Harper comes back, he's going to come back to Raw, and the Wyatt family will have a 2-and-2 thing going on, where they're going to have an influence on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do continue to do joint pay-per-views continuously, if there isn't brand exclusive pay-per-views, whatever that plan is, if maybe we come together and we do have the Wyatt family still
together.
Still connected in a way, still like you said, putting their presence on both shows and really throwing their weight around, kind of.
Or in a goofy alternate universe storyline that I've talked about before, I don't think on here, but with you, is what if Xavier Woods ends up requesting a switch and he leaves the New Day to join Bray?
And then Braun Strowman joins the New Day.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
And then at SummerSlam...
He ends up being the Spartan that he was when he was in the Rosebuds.
Yeah, but you could have at SummerSlam Bray, Rowan, and Xavier versus Kofi, Big E, and Braun.
Not totally sure how I feel about that.
I mean, no, I think it's the shits, but
I'm gonna pitch it, but it's
terrible. I think it's a funny idea. It's a comedy idea.
It is a funny idea. I gotta say, in total, I'm even less interested in what happened with the draft than when I was like, hey, I don't really want the draft to happen. And now that it's happened, I'm like, can we just go back? Can we not do this? Or can we do something different? Or I'm not sold.
Yeah.
Next week, you're gonna have to sell me real hard next week, WWE, because I'm not buying anything you're throwing down right now.
I think this is it's a transitional period right now, so I think it's not even going to be like next week. It's going to be a few weeks down the line before things really get cooking on both shows.
You think it'll be the build to SummerSlam?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be, the first week is going to be too early to really judge both shows on their merits, because
I think what I really want is I want them from Battleground having their official rosters. I want them to just cement something that makes me excited as to why these two should only be here, or this group should only be here, or what are they gonna start building towards SummerSlam to make me care that we split the roster.
Yeah. The main thing I want to see is I want to see the shows trying to one-up each other.
I would hope so, yeah.
I want to see the shows compete over who can have the better matches.
Yeah, and not just have the promo that we had between Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley last night on Raw just be a thing that we did with Daniel Bryan and Mick Foley.
Yeah.
So, what are your guys' thoughts about the draft? What do you think about the matches that were on SmackDown? Post down in the comments. What would you have done differently with the draft? Did you want the draft to happen? What do you think's next for some of these guys?
Thumbs up if you wanted the draft. Thumbs down if you didn't want the draft.
There you go. But that's it for the SmackDown rundown.
Also, real quick, because I know if anybody comments on this at all, please do. How many of you are disappointed that Shinsuke wasn't going to be in the draft? I mean, this is the thing that, like, everywhere I went on the internet, everybody's like, Shinsuke. And I just was like, no, there's not a chance he's going to get called.
No, I didn't think that he's too important to NXT right now, especially with the fact that Finn was obviously the first choice.
Yeah. So, for those of you who thought Shinsuke was going to get called up,
thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, click the links down below, because that takes you to our social medias like Facebook and Tumblr and Instagram and Twitter, where you can chat with us. You can send us messages. You can send us emails, because there's 2 emails down there. There's one for the show in total. There's my personal email address. And then there's a SoundCloud link that will take you to a podcast version of our 4 regular weekly shows, that being Indie News, Raw Review, SmackDown Rundown, and Midweek Wrap-Up.
Yep, as soon as those videos go up, within the 24 hours, whenever we're actually able to get it up, there is a podcast version of all 4 of those videos. But if you are a video watcher, and don't do this while you're driving, because that's a bad idea. Yeah. But if you are a video watcher, if you're like sitting at home, maybe you're on your lunch break, whatever you're doing, you want to check out a review, you want to check out that playlist, because that's got all of our videos, plus exclusive videos.
Yeah, because when you're not watching the videos, when you're listening to only the SoundCloud, you're going to miss out on our weekly Cruiserweight Classic coverage, where we talk about the Cruiserweight Classic during its run on the network, and then the prediction video.
Also, not only the prediction, but next week you'll miss out on our Battleground review.
Yeah. So the Battleground news is all going to happen up here on the YouTube show.
Exactly. So be sure to subscribe to both. We appreciate those of you that have. We appreciate the listens, the views, the shares, the subscribers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at whatever video you decide to watch next. And we're going to have like specific people we can just say, fuck you two, every time we do a review.
Yeah. What was this? SmackDown?
Yeah. Fuck you, Marie.
Yeah. Please, can I? I wouldn't mind.
No, I mean like, fuck her, like she shouldn't be here.
Oh, yeah, that too.